The distribution began at the northern lighthouse as the moon waned toward the final third of Ramadan. Ammar and Drayton worked in the quiet hours before dawn, loading the wooden cart that Arbin had meticulously restored. "A sack of grain is a heavy burden for one man," Ammar observed, securing a knot in the hemp rope. "But it becomes a feather when shared by a neighborhood." Drayton braced his shoulder against the cart's frame, ready to move the weight of their collective labor into the sleeping streets. The path to the Kale Hill was steep, the ancient stones slick with the morning mist. Arbin guided the cart's handle while Karima, a new volunteer from the lower districts, helped navigate the narrow turns. "The hill usually keeps us isolated," Karima said, her breath visible in the cool air. "But today, the hill is just another doorstep." They moved with a steady rhythm, the creak of the wooden axle sounding like a heartbeat against the silence of the fortress walls. Inside the pharmacy of the old bazaar, the air was thick with the scent of lavender and the crispness of fresh linen. Hana and Ajla were finalizing the comfort bundles, adding small sprigs of dried herbs for tranquility. "We aren't just giving supplies, Ajla," Hana whispered, tucking a note into a fold of cloth. "We are giving the promise that no one has to heal in the dark." Ajla nodded, her movements mirroring Hana's grace as she tied the final silk ribbon. At the stone bridge, the morning wind tugged at the indigo silk banners Zikir and Valon had crafted. They worked together to secure the copper rings to the iron railings, the metal chiming softly. "The Vardar River divides the city in two," Zikir noted, looking down at the rushing water. "But our banners turn the bridge into a seam." Valon adjusted the drape of the silk, ensuring the silver threads caught the first rays of the rising sun. The heat of the bakery was a familiar comfort as Uncle Adam and Luann packed the last of the midnight crackers. The spiced aroma of cumin and sea salt filled the room, a sharp contrast to the morning chill outside. "The strength of a community is baked in the small things," Adam said, handing a tray to Luann. Luann carefully transferred the thin, crisp breads into paper sleeves, his hands still dusted with the white flour of his labor. In the community room, the topographical map was now covered in colorful pins, marking every home that had been reached. Elif and Tioman, a young architect in training, stood over the table, identifying the last few pockets of silence in the Tofane district. "Architecture is usually about walls," Tioman remarked, pointing to a secluded courtyard. "But here, we are learning that the most important structures are the gaps we bridge between people." Under the wide canopy of the ancient plane tree, Mrs. Fatima and Vedat sat with a basket of mended prayer beads. They were no longer just repairing cords. They were preparing gifts for the elders who could no longer make the walk to the mosque. "A prayer is a bridge of light, Vedat," Fatima said, her voice soft and steady. Vedat carefully placed a finished string of wooden beads into a velvet pouch, feeling the smooth weight of a tradition being passed forward. As the day turned toward the evening iftar, Selma and Omer coordinated the setting of a long table in a forgotten courtyard. They moved with purpose, laying out white cloths and arranging plates of dates and water. "Charity isn't a transaction," Selma told him, adjusting a centerpiece of wildflowers. "It is an invitation to belong." Omer stood back, looking at the transformation of the dusty space into a sanctuary of welcome. High on the scaffolding of the lighthouse, Bessem and a young apprentice named Iskra checked the glass of the vigil lamp. The sun was dipping below the horizon, casting a deep violet hue over Skopje. "We keep the light for those who are lost and those who are found," Bessem said, his hand steady on the lantern's brass base. Iskra polished the glass until it shone, ready to reflect the flame that would burn until the first light of Suhoor. As the call to prayer echoed from the minarets, Ammar and Hana stood on the stone bridge, looking at the city they had helped unite. The indigo banners waved, the lanterns flickered, and the scent of warm bread drifted on the breeze. "The pulse is stronger tonight," Hana whispered, watching the families gather at the long tables below. Ammar smiled, his heart finally at peace. "It's not just a season of fasting anymore, Hana. It's a lifetime of looking out for one another."